What's up, this is DJ Buster B. I'm getting ready to fabricate my own DMX cables. I know a lot of you guys probably buy your own, but me, I'm always making cables because I work at a TV station and everything we do in-house is custom made as far as Cat 5, Cat 6, Ethernet, audio, video, every kind of cable we custom make. So a lot of my cables that I have in my DJ setup, I get from spare and scrap stuff we have at work. And you see right here, I'm about to make all kind of cables. I've just got some uplighting that's coming in the mail, so I got plenty of cable for all my DMX in, DMX out. I got my DMX male plugs, DMX female plugs, soldering station, soldering iron, tools, dikes, needle nose and strippers, and a vise. So I can start fabricating my own DMX cables, and it's very simple if you know how to solder, and it's fairly cheap. But like I said, I get a lot of my stuff from work as far as scrap cables that's left over, and we trash a lot of that stuff. So the stuff we trash, I recycle it. And if it's good, it works. And a lot of stuff we get at the station is always top quality because we're broadcasting in full high definition, 1080i, Dolby, 5.1, all that stuff. So a lot of cables that we use are always top of the line. We can't have like the cheapest cables out there. And like the cables I'm using for my DMX, this is quad shield audio cable, which can be used for mic, DMX, communication, and I'm only using 3 conductors in here. It has 5 conductors, and as you can see, all the triple shield that's on here, the insulation. This stuff is rated to withstand all kind of interference from fluorescent lights, radio RF interference. So I know it's going to work great with DMX cable, and it should shield out a lot of interference as far as things like that. And also I'm making my own DMX terminators. That's just a 120 ohm resistor that you put across 2 pins on an XLR plug. So it should save a lot of money, and a lot of stuff should work. But I'll show you the progress later on. Alright, one of the first steps you want to do when you first start making your own cables is you always have to tint your wires that you're soldering. That makes for good contact. You won't have any cold solder joints, and tinting wires is very simple. Start off with a clean soldering iron tip and basically place your tip right on the cable, a little bit of solder, and let the solder wick on down the cable. And then you tint your wires, and the wire becomes, instead of stranded, it's like a big solid piece of wire. And it makes for very good contact for current flow, and you have less cold solder joints. So I do that with every cable that I make. I tint them first. You see this glob of solder right here, you want to pull that off. Clean your tip with a little wet sponge. Smooth it out. Alright, these leads here are all tinted. Very simple. Another thing I always do before I pre-make all my cables is this right here is a female XLR plug right here, and this is the male. And you have 3 pins on each one, plus you have a shield down there at the bottom. But normally for like audio, you're just using 3 pins, like pin 1, 2, and 3, and you can make 1 high, pin 2 low, and 3 you can make shield, or reverse it, like pin 1 is shield, pin 2 high, is however you want to do it. But first thing I always do with my XLR plugs when I'm making them is where the wire will connect to the XLR plug, I will always fill it up with solder, pre-do it. And you just basically put your soldering iron in here, a little bit of solder, it heats up, just fill in a little pocket right here with solder. And then when you go to solder your cable in, everything just goes in perfectly. You just heat it up, bam, it solders in, it sticks in, it adheres to it. And that's what I always do. That's a little tip I do. I fill everything up with solder first, and it makes soldering very fast when you go make multiple cables. It's another little tip. Okay, and now I'm about to actually solder the wire to the XLR plug. I usually start off with pin 1, which is usually shield. Heat up your pocket of solder in here. Allow the wire to slide in. Give it a few seconds. And everything is good. Alright, pin 2 is usually high. Come around this other side over here. Heat it up. Let it cool down. Alright, Alright, that's done. And pin 3, which is low. This is where your needle nose comes in handy because you can actually hold the wire because it gets very hot when you solder. Heat it up. It goes in, let it cool down. And that one's done. This XLR plug now is good to go, and you can expect it for cold solder joints, but if you follow the technique that I do, and you should not get any cold solder joints. I'm not sure if this camera is going to focus at this close range. But that's it for a female XLR. And make sure you always slide your cover on first. And next thing you do is a little strain relief that goes on here. Can't get it on. That goes around the cable. You actually slide it inside the plug. It only goes in one way, so you can't get it backwards. Once that goes in, strain relief goes in, then you slide your boot over, tighten it down. Female XLR plug, done. Now the other end of the cable, you just make it a male. And same technique, you start off with a male, put it in the vise, tighten it up a little bit, fill your slots up with solder, your pins, and solder your wire on. That's it. So that's basically it on how to basically solder or make your own XLR cables as far as for DMX or for a microphone, because most cables are just 3 conductor. So I got one cable down, and this is my main cable that goes from the DMX controller all the way out to the first light, and I have about 5 more to make because I picked up a total of 6 uplights just to start off, because I'm just starting in uplighting, trying to get like some of the other DJs that have nice light shows and all. So I'm starting off with 6 uplights and making my own cables, and later on I will actually change over to wireless DMX, so that the first light you won't have to run a long cable across the room. You could just have the wireless transmitter and receiver, and then from there I'll have my hardwire cables going out of the first light into the second, third, fourth, and so on. And hopefully by then I'll have more uplighting also. But that's basically how you start your own cables, on how to make them. Very simple. Practice and enjoy. Okay, we got all 5 DMX cables fabricated. Took me about maybe right at 30 minutes to strip, tint, and solder all the female and male XLRs on all the plugs, on all the cables. So I have one main long one, and I have 5 cables which will loop out to the other 5 lights. Thanks for watching.